welcome to Speaker Spotlight.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me because I know how busy you are. You do so much within the community and for dyslexia and neurodiversity. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and what you do?
Oh, wow. So, how long do we have?
Just putting it out there.
Okay, so obviously my name's Elizabeth Takyi. And I don't even know what to call myself actually. I'm a neurodiversity advocate. I'm also a lecturer. I'm also a campaigner. I sit on 2 boards or 3 boards for charities. I run my own organization for 6.5 years, and we closed in 2022. What else is there to know about me? There is a lot.
You're
I
just an
carry
absolute champion for neurodiversity and the work that you do. I mean, you're such a name within the community. It's just fantastic to speak to you, and especially for women with dyslexia and neurodiversity, it's about champion that, and I think you do a brilliant job at it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I forgot to say the last thing. I work for Neurobox, which is an organization based in Cambridge, and my job is ambassador stroke speaker. So I go out and talk about my lived experience with all the different neurodiverse conditions I've been diagnosed with over the years, and which is dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, ADHD, Erling syndrome. Oh, the list is on and on and on. These were all done at different times. It wasn't like educational psychologists report at one time. So for the last 22 years, I've had different diagnoses as I go along. And obviously I have a disability, a physical disability, and I was recently diagnosed with osteoarthritis, something that took me by surprise, but this is where we are.
And
Yeah.
it can feel a lot because when you were saying that, then that's very similar to my neurodiverse diagnosis. I had them later in life, and it can be quite a lot finding out as an adult that you're neurodiverse. Maybe it's the first condition you've been diagnosed with, or even if you've been diagnosed, say earlier, like with dyslexia and dyspraxia, then later on you have another diagnosis. It can be a lot to process as well, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's overwhelming. However, it's also something I wear the labels with pride. And the reason why I do that is because then I know who I am and what I stand for. And I'm also sort of a lived experience. So I can share that with other people that may have difficulties trying to kind of, one, accept that, that neurodiversity is a natural real thing and that it's not a myth. And two, there is help out there for anyone that needs that support to be able to thrive either in the workplace or in their personal life.
Absolutely, and we did a speaker spotlight earlier, and when we spoke about it, I won't spoil which episode it's with, but we touched on you've got to be embracing yourself and your condition before you can be a champion for anyone else, and also it's when you're comfortable in yourself, then you can actually say, "This is me. I have dyslexia." And it's up to them to accept you, but they've got to make those amenities and understand. It's making society understand that condition, and it's not just about reading and writing, it's that emotional side that comes with dyslexia. It's that how we see the world, which it can be really positive, but also it can be quite challenging as well at times.
Absolutely. And it's even a different experience completely in the Black community. It's like sometimes, how do I even put this? So you get it from both sides. For example, in my community, and I can only speak from my community, I'm from Ghana, West Africa. I was born and bred in the UK, but my parents are from Ghana, West Africa. And certain conditions, it's like, really, don't believe in that. Just kind of, let's go and pray about it, or you can try harder, you can do harder than that. Don't let no one tell you any different. So you get that embedded in your mind that maybe there is nothing wrong with you, and maybe you can try harder. And that's how I lived for like 32 years before I thought, actually, there's more to whatever is going on in my brain than trying harder. And that's when I went for all the different assessments. So prior to going for the diagnosis, it was a real battle, and obviously working within community as well. I've had people come and say, look, uh, you know, people have suggested go to church and get prayed for and your dyslexia will disappear, which isn't the case. There's so many things that goes on within a lot of the ethnic minority groups. I don't know about other communities. But when I was running A2I Dyslexia, we had people from all different walks of life, from, Peru community, from Colombia, from, Somalia, from all different communities. And some of the stories were very alarming.
And it
Really
is, and it affects everyone. And unfortunately, I mean, even though we have the challenges in the UK, there are culturally it's seen as a bad thing. But that by doing that, it creates that stigma attached to neurodiversity, and then we don't
does.
talk about it. And then it's like, oh, they're just stupid or they're
Yeah,
slow. And actually, it's nothing because then that belief is then embedded in you. Then you think, oh, I must be stupid. I mustn't have that. But it is something. So what would your advice be then, Elizabeth, to somebody in that community who might be really struggling with embracing their neurodiversity or pursuing it? What advice would you give them?
so one of the most beautiful things when I go out to give talk is I normally say to everybody, and also if there are minorities in a group, i.e. Black, Asian, from different cultures, I also look at me as a lived experience. You know, I would never come and stand in front of, I don't know, 100 people, 150 people, 200 people, and just stand there for the sake of just standing there to talk about all the different neurodiversity conditions. The reason why I do what I do is because I want to bring awareness. And there is a saying that you can't be what you can't see. And I'm
Absolutely.
clearly standing in front of, you know, the audience saying, look at me as a woman, as a Black woman with lived experience of neurodiversity. It is real. It is here to stay. And we need help. And if you do need the help, reach out. Because what I didn't do initially, I was so ashamed to even admit that I had dyslexia or anything like that. I mean, when I got my diagnosis in February 2023 with ADHD, I thought, here we go, here's another added label. But when I actually mentioned it to a friend of mine, she said, but you're not climbing up the walls and you're not hyperactive and you're not what ADHD is. So don't believe in that, Liz. Don't believe in these things because it can go against you, you know? And I said, well, how does it go against me? It actually makes me feel so liberated to know that I know how my brain works and I know how everything else works within me. And the best advice I can give to people from my communities to say that I'm a living proof and a living example of what these conditions are and the impact it can have on one. You know, mental health, depression, anxiety, all sorts of different things that could be going on. So if you come from a community where it's not accepted, or even if you come from a community where English is as a second language, I've had some people come to me in the past when I was running my business that some assessors have said to them, oh, actually, it may not be that you've got dyslexia, but it might be a language barrier. And that's totally not true. Dyslexia is dyslexia. It doesn't matter what language you speak or where you're from. So that, you know, with that sort of mindset, people don't even bother to go to seek the help they need. So the advice I would give, you know, in this video is to say to the individual, if you think and you know and you believe in yourself that, listen, something ain't right, reach out and go for help. If it's in a workplace, speak to your HR managers. If it's in your community, I mean, find a friend or somebody to speak to. You know, if it's in education, go and speak to your student support services because the help I got has got me to where I am today. My story would have been completely different. I don't know where I would have ended up if I hadn't gone for the help I needed. Because I do believe that with my ADHD, I mean, when I was a lot younger, I was very hyperactive. And, you know, excuse my language of what I'm about to say, I was like a no-nonsense woman. You know, I just wouldn't take it.
But
I'd be
why? But
like,
why
listen,
would you, why do you excuse
mm,
that? To be honest, I thought you were going to swear then. I
no, no, no.
No nonsense. I love that. I think that's something that should be celebrated, not dimmed down, because you stand up for it, and you can see that you talk about it with such power and confidence, and that's what we should be listening to. And this is how it's. I think all about it, embrace it, and it's if we don't get that help and we act neurotypical, that's where the masking comes in, that's where burnout happens, and it's that side of being neurodiverse, the burnout comes in. And it's like when you've acted neurotypical all day in work and you come home, it impacts your relationships, impacts your personal life, because you're absolutely burnt out. And I hold my hands up, I've experienced that, and I feel like a lot, especially women, neurodiverse women, feel that. And it's that side of being neurodiverse people don't see, and that's why it's really important to accept who you are and ask for help, and look at what you with the
Exactly.
right support. Look how much you flourished and thrived.
Exactly. And the thing is that, I mean, going on about, like, let's say the example of being a woman and being neurodiverse, within my community, there is a certain way a woman should behave. So you are behaved, you have to behave proper, you have to be a proper lady. Don't ask me what that looks like. I wasn't. I was like, I can use the word a tomboy back in those days in the 80s and 90s. You would hardly find me in a beautiful skirt, suited, booted. I'd be in my torn up jeans with my t-shirt. And you think, listen, so my mother always used to say, when are you ever going to behave like a woman? Because I wasn't what you would class as, an average, well-behaved person in terms of how you dress or how you look. In terms of talking about a no-nonsense woman, sometimes that people will find, and I will speak for myself as a Black woman, or some Black women that may have experienced what I've been through. You're seen as aggressive, you're seen as rude, you're
Mm.
seen as, what's wrong with this one? And it's like, when I used to work in corporate, I was always getting in trouble because I'm quite outspoken as well. But I'm talking that back in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of racism out there as well. So
Absolutely.
I don't know how I would have been able to have said, I've got ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia. It would have nobody would have listened to me. They'd have
Mm.
said, look, I think she's just misbehaving or whatever it might be, whatever word they might use. So I had to mask it. And that came with anxiety and depression. And I've lived that. And it came with a huge cost of where it just got to a point where I thought, you know, is it even worth it? But that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So I had to be who I'm not. Well, when I got my diagnosis in the end, and I am who I am, I'm not saying I'll go around misbehaving, but people can understand why I'm interrupting someone when they're talking. Because if I don't speak, I'm going to forget it.
And
And
that's
if I,
it. It's that self-awareness is absolutely everything. And and you also, I feel like you're kinder to yourself as well. It's like, oh, do you know what? It makes sense to why I'm like that and why I operate in this way. And I just think you own who you are, Elizabeth, and I love that.
yeah,
And you're just
yeah.
going to be amazing at the Dyslexia Show 2024. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing there?
At the Dyslexia Show 2024, I'll be speaking about my lived experience, hopefully with, I think the title is Dyslexia and Dyspraxia. So, no, not dyspraxia, dyslexia and dyscalculia is what it's about this year. And of course, I have a lived experience of both. So I will be speaking on with my lived experience and how I've thrived and how I want many people more to have a taste of where I've got to and where I am now. And I think I'm more speaking to the younger generation. I don't want them growing up thinking that having dyslexia is a barrier or having dyslexia defines who you are, because it doesn't. Um, I've spoken at so many different organizations. I've been to colleges, universities, and spoken, and I've had young people who may not necessarily want to accept that they might have
Mm.
autism or dyslexia or some of these hidden conditions that are not quite visible. Um, and then as a result, a lot of them do struggle and drop out of colleges and drop out of school. And even in the workplace, people might find that because they're not getting the help they need, or they're not able to disclose to their managers who they are. A lot of the times, either people are quitting their jobs, or they've been fired, or there's grievance against them, or the court, there's a tribunal case, something because of. So I'll be speaking about my lived experience, and hopefully, I mean, my mission is to change people's lives. Yeah, that's my mission. That's what I'm here for, through my lived experience of all the different conditions I have.
Oh, Elizabeth, I could talk to you all day. Honestly, you're just such a breath of fresh air. Honestly, you're absolutely amazing what you do. Thank you. And in the meantime, for the Dyslexia Show, where can people find you? Where can people get in touch?
I'm on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the main place. And I think that's about the only place I engage with a lot of people to do with my work. I think our website, Neurobox website, has got lots of services and services that they offer within the workplace. And again, that's another place people can find me. And I do go into companies to give a talk about, I say lived experience, but also the broader aspect of neurodiversity as well.